Fahim Ali.
Hi.
Assalamu alaikum, Fahim.
Welcome, Salam.
Right, where are you joining us from?
Oh, I'm in London.
London. All
Yeah.
right. Doing it, yeah. All right. So, shukran for joining us at this vampire hour, I have to say.
Mhm.
So, how are you doing and what's on your mind? What would you like to share with us? A thought, a um, question, or just, yeah, what would you like to say?
My question is why did God create anything? Like, why did He decide to create things in general?
Why did God decide to create anything as opposed to
Yeah,
nothing?
nothing. Yeah.
That is, I guess, in some ways, that question is Heidegger's sledgehammer, isn't it? That why is there something as opposed to nothing? This is what he begins his kind of treatise with. Because although that at the face of it may seem a simple question, it's infinitely complex. That why is there something as opposed to nothing? Allah chose. He chose for there to be something as opposed to be nothing in his infinite wisdom. We can speculate, we can say any guess can be as good as another. Um, I would say that, see, it's not necessary in any way for God to create something, but it was maybe it's to display the positive, well, I say in a positive light, the power of will, and then that manifested as humans, because humans have to exercise that power, and is it exercised responsibly or irresponsibly? It all kind of plays out. But none of this is necessary by any means, but God chose it. So I don't know really what would you like to say on that, or is this, because that's so much. I mean, and I've got no idea where, if anything could ever suffice as an answer.
Um, when you say like God chose, do you think God has free will like us, so He can choose one thing or He can choose something else? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, God has will. Yeah, of course. So if you say God willed something to be, so in Arabic, the term, they do say mashia as well, like, so from the word sha Allah, like insha Allah or masha Allah, comes from willing, or wishing. But another term as well that is used is irada, arada Allah. God can be translated as will or want. But yeah, in essence, chose for something to be. It's interesting because from the scientific perspective, matter, why does matter exist? Because matter, upon contact with antimatter, self-annihilates. Yeah. And just as you have any particle, you'll have its antiparticle. Okay. So matter, there is antimatter. And when matter and antimatter meet, they self-annihilate. Both of them cancel each other out. So the question is, and that's factual. But the question is, so how did matter preponderate? Like, why did matter then go on to exist? Because it should have entirely, after the Big Bang, it should have all just evaporated again because of the antimatter making contact. But for some reason, a tiny proportion of matter preponderated. So it created an impairment, a disimbalance, which results in it succeeding. And I feel in some ways it's poetic that you see, almost, if we are to personify, and I know this is great poetic license and dramatic license at play here, but if we are to personify, let's say, matter and antimatter, some have argued some elements of antimatter are much more powerful than the matter correlates, that at this antimatter as let's say symbolically representing, I mean, this is a lot of dramatizing here, but symbolically representing evil, and matter in that place of good. You have a primordial play of this good versus evil since time immemorial, where even though the immense power of this antimatter, yet matter preponderates and goes on to flourish. If looked at with a lens, is a beautiful performance of existence. I don't know, but I think it's amazing when looked at in that way. But yeah, what are your thoughts on it, Fahim?
Well, on the free will stuff, I wanted to say that if God like knows everything and he knows what he's gonna choose, then like, is he really choosing anything? Because like he already knows what he's gonna do, you know?
Because time is but an illusion. It doesn't really exist in the way we think it exists. So we obviously perceive it though. So to us, it's real from our perspective, but it isn't actually real. So that's interesting, because I guess it would be a kind of timelessness then, in which sense I guess everything is happened, and to happen simultaneously. Yeah, I mean, it's very perplexing, but that's physics, that's not. See, and I tell you, I love this about our day and age. I love that it is where the mystique is uttered and manifested in the sciences. See, we've reached that era where they converge, because people have said these things since time immemorial, but they've been just kind of brushed off as just mystical talk. But now it's been demonstrated in physics that this is the or at least, obviously it's the explanation amongst, let's say, a few explanations, but this is a powerful scientific explanation now. This is not mystical talk. This is, powerful scientific talk in saying, well, looking at how astrophysics works, this seems to be an illusion. So, yeah. So, all right. So, apart from trying to figure out the will of God for him, what else preoccupies your mind at this godly hour?
Well, when you were talking about the harems, I was wondering if it's allowed in Islam to have sex with multiple people at the same time.
To have what? Sorry, to have sex.
To have sex with multiple people at the same time. So if you have like multiple concubines,
I Fahim, publicly, you nutty. What are these desires that are bubbling up within? I mean, oh God, we need some therapy here. So I'm sure the sultans of the past didn't really care much about what people thought about. I mean, I don't think they were doing it in public, but in their private harems, I'm sure they were. So, yeah, but I don't think do you mean a strict scholarly ruling? Is that what you mean? Like, what would the scholars
Yeah,
say, the ulama? I love
yeah.
how
I'm just
even in the
wondering.
most intimate and the most kind of intimate or plunging moments of heightened sexuality, one still ponders, I wonder what the ulama would say. That in that deep moment of sensuality, one thinks, yeah, but what would Maulana Saab say? Yeah, what does he think about this right now? I do love the commitment and the devotion to our respected clergy. May Allah bless them. So you see, the scholars, as always, would be divided. I think most would say no, and I think some would probably say it's makruh and not haram. It depends on, like, it depends if they kind of all within the same. What do they call it now? When you're quarantining, what's your, is it pod or what's your group? Your
Uh, yeah, I think it's pod. Yeah,
Is it a pod? What do
I
they
think.
call it, people? When you're in quarantine and you have your kind of a group that you're allowed to mingle with. So basically, if it's that, no, I was just checking if somebody had your bubble. That's it, not pod. Your bubble.
Oh yeah, yeah, your bubble.
So if it's your so those ulama would feel that if it's your shukran clear, if it's your bubble, say Hubble bubble, huh? They go, yeah, this is our bubble, don't worry. So, for example, co-wives, and in their case, they would say co-concubinage, co-concubines, and so it's their bubble. So some ulama would feel like Jalaluddin As-Suyuti, for example, he writes about it in his Hawil al-Fatawi. He actually discusses this mas'ala amongst other scholars too as well. So I think they would put it towards the kind of discouraged, but maybe not haram. But I think the majority would probably say haram still. So I don't think so. If in that moment of heightened sensuality, you were wondering I wonder what Maulana Saab thinks about this. Maulana Saab thinks not well about it. Okay. So, Fahim, shukran. It's been epic. I appreciate the questions, and just putting your concerns out there, going from the will of God, why, the ultimate biggest why, to one of the most courageous and daunting hows. Allah. May Allah bless your journey. Right, Fahim, shukran. Right, people, that was Fahim from London. All right. Some very interesting.